Hi, my name is Pam,
And my name is Ashley.
and today we'll be talking about systematic failures of society security in Taiwan public spaces. So, when we originally researched about society security in Taiwan, we found out something astonishing. 70% of Taiwanese respondents believed that homicide cases were increasing, according to surveys from National Science and Technology Council of Taiwan. However, when we double checked in the Taiwanese national statistics in 2025, the number of homicide cases in Taiwan from 2014 to 2024 were actually on a long-term decline. And the reason for this misconception was the fear of indiscriminate attacks, largely, according to the Taiwan Database for Empirical Legal Studies. Therefore, in this research, we aligned our focus on indiscriminate attacks specifically, and the policies that could mitigate this and the data related to it. So, some basic information. In 4 attacks during the last decade, 9 people died and 38 people were injured due to failures of society security in Taiwan.
So, the individuals who are affected by the issues of society security are victims and family of victims in indiscriminate violence, according to the National Union of Counseling Psychologists Association. These individuals sometimes require long-term recovery and support, highlighting the psychological effects of this issue. Besides these individuals, the general population can also be affected through seeing the images on social media or other media outlets, so they may also require extended care. In a survey made by the Taiwan Media Watch, it is reported that 97% of respondents reports that the 4-year-old girl killing case in 2016 caused widespread panic. This shows that the issues of society security not only affects the victims, but also all Taiwanese citizens. According to the National Police Agency survey in 2025, 91.78% of the respondents considered the safety in their community as good, while 82.25% were satisfied with their administrative region safety. However, only 51.32% had satisfaction with the national safety. This shows that although most people were satisfied with the safety in their community, not all were satisfied with the social security around Taiwan. On the other hand, the Taiwan National Statistics in 2025 shows that the number of homicide cases in Taiwan from 2014 to 2024 are decreasing. However, the rise in 2023 to 2024, this might indicate the overall trend of homicide cases might be changing. Next, according to the Taipei Metro Ridership Count statistics compiled from the data by the Taipei Metro, the total number of rides from December 20th to December 31st, 2025 was 1.7 million lower than the same period in 2024. This was caused by the Changwon random stabbing incident in December 19, 2025. And even though the government responded the case by applying almost 2,000 more police deployments, the ridership of the MRT still dropped. This could ultimately worsen the economy and also the traffic because people are now avoiding to take public transport, but also strike fear among the public. The Taiwanese government have established laws to address the issues of society security since the 2000s, including the Organized Crime Prevention Act and the Gun and Weapon Control Enforcement. Since then, the government have been making constant changes to these laws. For example, in 2014, after a Taipei Metro stabbing case, the NPA, or the National Police Agency, increased the police forces and patrols in metro stations and improved the emergency procedures. And in 2023, after a successful raid against crimes, the government have changed the fines and penalties for public shooting and using unconventional weapons, and also revoking the sentence reductions for surrendering. However, with 4 killed and 11 injured, after the 2025 Changwon indiscriminate case, the public were still concerned with society security.
Moving on to the policy we have developed in combat of this issue. The first one is a government-mandated security protocol. The second one is the implementation into the high school curriculum of Taiwan. So, the first solution in detail is that public places generally accessible to the public and, at the same time, planned to accommodate more than 500 people simultaneously must submit details of security systems, security drills, mental health personnel plans, and plans of instant communication towards the Taiwanese government once per year. The requirements for these protocols and regulations are made public by the government and is accessible to anyone, not only the businesses. And the owners of the institutions will be the sole funders of the protocols that they have to establish in their own institutions. Institutions who fail to cooperate or are not passed cannot open their venues, and if they do still open their venues, they will be fined and permanently closed. This is similar to the approach of UK's Martin's Law, in which venues with capacity over 100 per people must have basic training and preparedness planning, while venues with capacities over 800 people must have formal risk assessments and stronger security measures, in which the failure to do either one will induce huge fines for the venues. This shows that similar approaches are used by other governments worldwide. Moving on to the advantages of our solution. This solution would make high-risk institutions react faster towards the incident since they have readily prepared protocols. Also, regulations made public by the government will not only ensure that they are fair, but also gain public trust because the information is transparent. Also, this will result in more venue visitors for certain malls and businesses since the public knows that they are safer environments, which would indirectly enhance business. However, it also includes some disadvantages. For example, it requires government officials and training resources, which would burden the government. Also, it only minimizes the damage in an event of an indiscriminate attack, and it does not completely prevent incidents from happening. Therefore, we developed the second policy solution, in which it is the High School Curriculum Public Risk Aversion Education Program. The first part of it is the 5Ds methodology, and the second part of it are mandated lectures. So the 5Ds methodology. This is a bystander intervention training that is widely adopted worldwide by Australian government and global institutions. It includes five main things: distract, direct, delegate, document, and delay, in which these are all essential things or possible things that bystanders or witnesses of events such as indiscriminate attacks in public can do. And we will make this topic an essential course in all high schools throughout Taiwan. Furthermore, we will also mandate lectures in which schools must invite witnesses or experts about this issue in indiscriminate attacks once per year. Because, according to Dahlstrom, professor of science communication at Iowa State University, narratives are twice as effective than post-history texts. This will help the students further retain their knowledge about indiscriminate attacks and reach our goal of potentially educating individuals on regulating their emotions and consequences, further reducing future violence created by students, but also teaching the students to protect themselves in such situations. This is similar to the approach in Australia, as Australia has officially issued the 5Ds methodology as a recommendation to citizens to follow and learn. And these are the things listed below, which is distract, which is creating a distraction, etc., are the small tips that Australian government included in their packet, in which they want to foster a safer and more inclusive public space. This shows that this plan is effective and is widely adopted. Moving on to the advantages of this solution will create reforms at the basic level, which would reduce future incidents, if not prevent all of them. Also, it would prevent our future citizens, or our students right now, prepare them in the situations of bystander, but also in the situation of victim, so that they can help reduce the damage caused by the perpetrator. Also, it encourages them to think before taking action, fostering critical thinking. However, there are disadvantages to this. The trauma of the experience may prevent witnesses from speaking at public schools, making the school's time harder in finding speakers. Also, it requires school resources and curriculum time, which occupies their schedule and money. Furthermore, some students may not take the lectures or 5D methodology seriously, which will be ineffective towards that. Therefore, at the end, we recommend our first policy as our final policy, which is the government-mandated security protocol. It is the most effective because, according to Margaret Freeman, a transportation researcher at Cal State University, if safety protocols are made public, riders' quality of public transportation will be higher. This could potentially be extrapolated for other examples, such as malls, in which individuals would feel higher quality and of well-being and higher comfort in those places, which would psychologically comfort the public. Also, this would be the most impactful solution because it would not only immediately minimize damage in indiscriminate attacks, but also ensures long-term trust from the public, as according to Margaret Freeman, in which it essentially kills two birds with one stone. Furthermore, it is the most realistic solution because most, if not all, institutions, such as metros, malls, busy streets, that meet our benchmark of 500 people, can afford to apply these new protocols without spending too much money, since many institutions already have their foundational protocols established and they only have to make slight tweaks to their systems in order to fulfill the governmental requirements we listed there. So, in conclusion, data from Taipei Metro and other reliable sources indicate that the general public are still concerned about the society's security, which is largely because of indiscriminate attacks. Therefore, to solve this problem with indiscriminate attacks, we recommend solution 1 or protocols because it's of its apparent psychological and real-world application. However, we also acknowledge that solution 2, which is changing and implementing the 5D methodology and lectures within the high school curriculum, could help future citizens minimize damage and minimize the occurrence of these events in the future, albeit taking some time. In conclusion, to improve citizens' psychological health and well-being, it is essential to provide them with a sense of safety, first, through mitigating the issue of indiscriminate attacks and therefore solving holes in the social security of Taiwan. Thank you.